Howdy, friends. Are you looking for predictions for this week 10 in the AFC North and the NFC North? Are you tired of these pundits that always get it wrong? We'll say no more. I'm your man. Well, I guess there's also the option where you are addicted to sports gambling and you really, really need to win your house back. In which case, don't call me, man. Don't get help. Why am I so bullish? Why am I so, optimistic, so happy? Is it because, I'm just doing it all for the camera? No, actually not. It's because, quite frankly, this NFL season, I've been incredibly accurate. Need proof? I'll give you a little bit of a brief rundown. Back at the trade deadline, this was the record that I had for every team in the AFC North at the trade deadline. Again, made that video back in August. Boom, I was dead on there. NFC North, this was my record prediction into the trade deadline. Boom, dead right on everything except the Bears, but everybody else was wrong about the Bears too. That isn't the only thing I got right. I also got the Ravens starting off slow, including a loss to an AFC South opponent that they had no business losing to. I also predicted that the Bengals would start the season 0-2, go 3-3 into the bye week, and then rumble wins against San Francisco and the Buffalo Bills. I also predicted that the Lions would defeat the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead week 1. I also made wild prediction videos, including the Jets winning Monday Night Football, going 5-3 into the bye, then dropping to 5-4 after losing Cincinnati Bengals, and all that stuff happened. I made those back in August. The long story short is that if you're looking for accuracy, I'm your guy. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go through week 10 for these two divisions and give you guys my thoughts and breakdowns, because unlike a lot of these pundits, I've tuned in for a lot of these games because, to be honest with you, these are my favorite divisions. So I'm going to give you guys the most accurate analysis possible on the entire internet. You ready? Let's dive right in. So first and foremost, we got the Houston Texans and the Cincinnati Bengals. Houston has obviously surprised a lot of people, and, it's easy to say that, the Panthers couldn't have possibly known, but the signs for Bryce Young being a disaster in the NFL were laid out the whole Tua episode. Bryce Young was a small guy just like Tua. Tua had a bunch of issues, getting protected, and then even when he was protected, he was getting concussed. So CJ Stroud should have been the number 1 overall pick. He's playing the number 1 overall pick, and as someone who watched him a lot at Ohio State, this isn't incredibly surprising. He's a phenomenal player. Now, how does this affect this game between the Bengals and the Texans? This is a sneaky good game because the Texans are a good squad. This is the current Vegas odds right now. The Bengals are obviously favored. They have home field, but it's at 6.5. And you're probably wondering, hey, how do I see this game going? Well, most likely, I think that if CJ Stroud is going to have a moment where he's going to stumble, like really stumble, and have to face some real adversity on the football field, it's going to be this game because of Lou Anarumo. I know they don't have Sam Hubbard, but Lou Anarumo is the defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. He is a mastermind at shutting down quarterbacks and making them play left-handed. He was the guy that gave Patrick Mahomes fits. You know how everybody was talking on the broadcast, how he was dropping 8 people into coverage? Yeah, that was Lou Anarumo. Remember when Josh Allen was playing like MVP candidate, like going in a bunch of shootouts, and then they play the Bengals each time and they just get clowned? That's Lou Anarumo too. It's not because they have a bunch of superstar defensive players. It's because that defensive coordinator is awesome. So if there is a time where CJ Stroud is going to turn into a little bit of a pumpkin, at least for one game, it's going to be Cincinnati. And that offense is super explosive. The Texans, I wouldn't be surprised if their defense played a little bit better because they got absolutely clowned by Tampa Bay and bailed out by CJ Stroud. I think that the Bengals are going to win by more than 6.5. My bet is around 8 or 9 if I had to make a bet. But I think the Bengals are locks to win this game, and I obviously the future is bright in Houston. But to win this kind of game against Cincinnati at this point in time, they're a year behind. So hats off to CJ Stroud, but you're not going to win this game. Sorry, not sorry. The next team that I have on here is the Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens. Oh yeah, I love these AFC North divisional games. They're always physical, they're always nasty, and sometimes they just get weird. They just get really, really weird. And fun fact, I don't know if this is common football lore, but if you're not familiar, the Baltimore Ravens used to be the Cleveland Browns, but Art Modell moved the team over to Baltimore, made everyone in Ohio like absolutely furious. And then the moment they left, they won the Super Bowl. So there's a lot of animosity between the Browns and Baltimore for that reason alone. This is going to be a really fun game to watch. Now, obviously, the Ravens have been playing phenomenal football, so they're going to be favored. But by how much? 6.5 for a divisional game? I don't get it. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I figured before the season started that the Browns and the Ravens would end up splitting. Now, I had the Browns winning their first matchup, but their first matchup, I wouldn't count that into the analysis at all because they played that rookie. The rookie was bad, completely self-destructed. That's not how this game is going to go. And I know Baltimore's been playing hot, but that the Browns defense is no joke. Deshaun Watson should be healthy. He should play okay. I think this is a huge amount of disrespect, even if the Ravens are at home. Good Lord. I actually think, all things considered, this is a game Cleveland can win. I know that sounds crazy to say, especially because of some of the injuries, but the Browns defense has just they've been so good, and if Deshaun Watson is just mid, they're gonna be fine. And the Ravens are due for a letdown game. Every team has one of these clunkers. Another one is coming for Baltimore. They're going to lose a game they in theory should have no business losing, but the Browns are a good squad. There's no shame in this. So I think Cleveland could actually stun a ton of people and win this game, or at the very least cover a 6.5 point spread. That's crazy, man. Like last year when Baltimore was hot and they played Cleveland, when they had old Jacoby Brissett as the quarterback, they were able to keep it competitive. I think this is going to be a similar story here. So Browns to win, cover the spread. Now, to finish off the AFC North, we get a crossover. Packers and Steelers, Garcia, Aintree, all that good stuff. Now, for this game, the Steelers are favored, and there's a little bit of doom and gloom on the Packers. And I don't get it. The Steelers have been outscored by 30 points, and yet there's 5-3. That's ridiculous. Pittsburgh, the more I watch those games, they have a very specific formula to win. Use Najee Harris like a battering ram, or with occasional run around, it gets 120 yards, win the turnover battle by at least 2, or preferably 2. And if not, cue the Magic Steel Pixie Bull Dust. The Magic Pixie Dust. The Steeler Magic Pixie Dust can come in many forms. It could be coming from ref ball. It could be coming from just straight up old-fashioned special teams or defensive or offensive gaffes by the opponent. A perfect example of this was against the Los Angeles Rams. You know, everybody saw he didn't get the 4th down. Against the Browns, Monday Night Football, there's the fumble 6 and the pick 6. The pick 6 to start the game, fumble 6 to kind of end the game. Pittsburgh has been walking on eggshells, and I feel like the Packers and the Bears are in a very similar spot. There's going to be sort of a dead cat bounce. These teams have too much talent, and there is too much of an incentive to win games. Because everybody gets punishes if you lose. Like in Chicago's case, you know, obviously the quarterback, the coach, the GM, all 3 of them are going to be on the hot seat if this season turns into a tank season after all this hype. But for the Packers, Matt LaFleur is sweating bullets. Brian Gutekunst, looks like an absolute doofus for running Aaron Rodgers out of town, not appeasing him. He could have used that draft to get T. Higgins and maybe won another Super Bowl. He didn't do that. He instead went for the quarterback. And Matt LaFleur is getting a lot of flack. Joe Barry obviously needs to win because he's Joe Barry. I feel like every Packers fan has mixed feelings about Joe Barry. Every part of this team, and Jordan Love, if Jordan Love stinks, then the Packers are going to go get a new quarterback, or maybe they start playing Sean Clifford. Every incentive structure says that the Packers need to win, and I feel like this is the kind of game where Pittsburgh is going to take the opponent that lightly because they're gonna get in their head, they're everything's fine. We don't need to prepare as much for this guy. This is a game that I feel like the Packers could kind of shock people and show a little bit of a pulse. Does this mean they're going to win the division? Probably not. But the Packers are going to have a little bit of a dead cat bounce. So I'm taking the Packers to win that game. Now, Minnesota and New Orleans. The Saints are obviously favored despite Minnesota's home field advantage. They have Josh Dobbs at quarterback. I'm going to be honest with you guys. This is just a gut feeling. I don't trust the Saints. I don't. Josh Dobbs looked great against the Falcons. I feel like now that with an actual week of practice where he knows people's names and a little bit of the system, he's going to be just fine. I mean, I'm rooting for Josh Dobbs, fellow engineer. So I gotta absolutely love that. But Josh Dobbs, I think he's gonna do great for him. Now, the fun fact about Josh Dobbs, if you didn't know, Arizona traded for him, or acquired him, I should say, from Cleveland. Cleveland could have had Josh Dobbs instead of using PJ Walker or that stupid rookie against the Baltimore Ravens. But they didn't. They got rid of him, and it turns out Josh Dobbs is a baller. He's getting a second chance, similar to the Geno Smith arc from last year. I feel like this is a game that Minnesota can win. The Saints roster for years has been overrated. They keep doing this funky pyramid scheme with the salary cap. They haven't paid their dues, and they just keep trying to run it back. And it's not the same roster. You don't have this great coach. You don't have even a good quarterback. I just don't trust the Saints in this spot. Maybe it's a little bit judgmental, but the Saints have been one of those teams that I don't get why people keep saying, "Oh, this is a dark horse team." I've heard that for years. When are we going to learn our lesson here about the Saints? They're not going to win the Super Bowl. They were never going to win the Super Bowl. They're not even going to win their division, most likely, because I know they're sitting at 5-4 right now, but still a lot of games left to be played. So I'm taking the Vikings here, and finally, we have the Lions and Chargers afternoon game. And in my original video, I kind of figured that this would be the type of game that the Lions would lose, mainly because of the Detroit Lions. I just kind of figured that they would hit some real adversity in this part of the season, and the Chargers seemed like a logical team that would, give them a little bit of a foil. But to be honest with you, the more I objectively look at this game, even though they're favored by 3, I like the Lions to win and win big. Why? Well, I mean, we could say that it's Jared Goff coming home a little bit, but I don't think that matters. What matters is that the bye week came at the perfect time for them. David Montgomery is healthy. They're getting all their pieces back. They got a chance to recalibrate a little bit. But the weird thing about the Lions, they're 4-0 in their primetime games. Yeah, go down the list. They beat Kansas City in Arrowhead week 1. Week 3, they beat the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field. And then they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their game that's flexed into the 3 p.m. slot. Or 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, I should say. And the Monday Night Football game, they dominated. Even the scoreboard didn't show it. The Lions controlled that entire game. For whatever reason, this team, under Dan Campbell, has had the opposite problems that a lot of Lions teams have had, where, they're fine with noon, but the moment everybody looks at them on Thanksgiving, they shrivel up. That's not the case this year. And for that alone, I think the streak is going to continue. I really do think that the Lions have primetime mojo. I don't know how else to describe it. With part of the reason why I think they're actually more of a dangerous playoff team than other people are going to give them credit for. They just love it when the lights shine bright, and I feel like this is just a perfect game for the Lions. And they go 5-0 here. You know, maybe they are. Maybe they are. Maybe they will actually be America's team. And fun fact, they were my Super Bowl pick to start the year. Yeah. Yeah, the Lions. The Lions are my Super Bowl pick. And if you would have bet the Lions to go to the Super Bowl when I made that prediction, oh, you would have been set, man. You would have been set. But now the Lions have come back down because everybody agrees that the Lions are good. Kind of sucks, but you missed out. Anyways, if my predictions are true, this is going to be the record of every team at the end of the week. The Lions will be ahead at 7-2. The Vikings will be at 6-4. Packers 4-5. The Bears are obviously 3-7. And Baltimore will still have the lead at 7-3. The Browns have the tiebreaker over the Bengals, so they'll both be 6-3, and the Steelers will be 5-4. And this would all set up for an exciting Thursday night football game between the Ravens and the Bengals. And I, for one, can't wait. Anyways, guys, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out some of the old prediction videos, you know, by clicking on the channel icon. Or maybe I'll put it in the description or the comment section. Who knows? Anyways, guys, thanks for watching this episode of State of the North.